The bathroom door creaked open, and my heart stopped. Steam swirled around me. The shower's heat no match for the sudden chill of exposure. I froze, clutching the towel I hadn't yet wrapped around myself, as Elias stood there, his silhouette framed in the doorway, eyes wide with something I couldn't name. San Francisco's morning fog pressed against the apartment window, muting the world outside. Elias and I had been roommates for 2 years, best friends for a decade, sharing everything from late-night pizza runs to secrets we swore would never see daylight. But this moment felt like a line we'd never crossed. His gaze flickered, not away in embarrassment, but toward me, raw and unguarded. "I need to tell you something," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the water's rush. "And I can't wait any longer. I'm Julian Carter, 27, a graphic designer scraping by in the city's Mission District. My life was a collage of deadlines, coffee stains, and the comfortable chaos of living with Elias Torres, a barista with a laugh that could light up a room and a habit of leaving dishes in the sink. We met in high school, two misfits bonding over comic books and dreams of escaping our small-town lives. Now, in this cramped apartment with its peeling paint and creaky floors, we were still each other's anchor. Or so I thought. That morning, I'd overslept, rushing to shower before a client meeting. Elias was supposed to be at the cafe, not here, not stepping into the bathroom, with a look that made my pulse race. I fumbled with the towel, my voice sharp. "Eli, what the hell? You scared me." He didn't laugh, didn't apologize. Instead, he took a step closer, the door clicking shut behind him. The steam thickened, blurring the edges of the moment. "Julian," he said, his voice low, trembling, "I've been lying to you. To myself. I can't do it anymore." My stomach twisted. Lying? Elias, the guy who'd once driven 3 hours to retrieve my lost sketchbook, who knew my coffee order by heart, who'd stayed up with me through every breakup and bad day. The air felt heavy, charged with something I couldn't yet grasp. "What are you talking about?" I managed, my voice barely steady. He swallowed hard, his dark eyes locked on mine. "I'm in love with you," he said, the words spilling out like they'd been caged for years. "I've been in love with you since we were 16, and I can't keep pretending it's just friendship." The world tilted. My best friend, my constant, my Elias, had just torn open the fabric of our lives. I stood there, dripping wet, the towel forgotten in my hand, as his confession hung between us like a storm cloud ready to break. The rest of that morning was a blur. I mumbled something incoherent, pulled on clothes, and bolted to my meeting, leaving Elias standing in the kitchen, his face a mix of hope and fear. My mind spun as I navigated the city's crowded streets, the rainbow flags on Castro Street flapping in the wind like they were mocking my confusion. How had I not seen this? How had I missed the way his smiles lingered, the way he'd always been there, closer than anyone else? By the time I got home that evening, the apartment felt different, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Elias was on the couch, sketching in his notebook, a habit we shared, though his art leaned toward bold, vibrant murals while mine was all clean lines and minimalism. He looked up, his expression guarded. "You okay?" he asked, like he hadn't just dropped a bomb on our friendship. "No," I admitted, sinking into the armchair across from him. "Eli, why now? Why today?" He set his pencil down, his hands trembling slightly. "Because I saw you this morning, and it hit me, like really hit me, that I might lose you. You're dating again, talking about moving out someday, and he trailed off, running a hand through his dark hair. I couldn't keep it inside anymore. I thought about the guys I dated, brief flings, nothing serious. I'd always told myself I was too busy for love, too focused on my career. But now, staring at Elias, I wondered if I'd been running from something else, something I hadn't dared to name. "I need time," I said finally, my voice thick. "This is a lot." He nodded, his eyes soft but pained. "Take all the time you need. Just don't shut me out, okay?" I didn't sleep that night. My mind replayed every moment of our friendship, every late-night talk, every shared laugh, every time his hand brushed mine, and I'd ignored the spark. Was I in love with him too? Or was I just scared of losing the one person who made my world make sense? The next few days were tense, a dance of avoidance and awkward small talk. I threw myself into work, sketching logos for a new cafe client, but my thoughts kept drifting to Elias. At the coffee shop where he worked, I'd catch myself watching him, his easy smile as he chatted with customers, the way his colorful scarf caught the light. He was beautiful, I realized, in a way I'd never let myself notice before. One evening, I found him on the fire escape, staring out at the city's twinkling lights. The air was cool, the fog rolling in like a blanket. "Eli," I said, joining him, "can we talk?" He turned, his expression cautious but hopeful. "Yeah, always." I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. I don't know what I feel yet, but I know I don't want to lose you. Not as my friend, not as anything. His eyes softened, and for the first time since his confession, he smiled. "That's enough for now," he said. "I'll wait." As we sat there, shoulder to shoulder, the city humming below us, I felt the first stirrings of something new. Not certainty, not yet, but a possibility, fragile and terrifying, that maybe we could be more than we'd ever been. The fog clung to San Francisco's streets like a secret, and I felt like I was carrying one too. Elias's confession had cracked something open inside me, and no matter how many hours I spent sketching at my desk, I couldn't stop thinking about him. His words echoed in my head. "I've been in love with you since we were 16. I tried to act normal, but normal was gone. Breakfasts were quiet, our usual banter replaced by stolen glances and hesitant smiles. Elias gave me space, but I could feel his presence in every corner of our apartment. The sketchbooks he left on the coffee table, the scent of his cedarwood cologne lingering in the air. I was drowning in him, and I didn't know if I wanted to swim or sink. One Saturday, I dragged him to the farmer's market in the Ferry Building, hoping the bustle of vendors and the smell of fresh sourdough would ground us. The crowd buzzed around us, a kaleidoscope of voices and colors. Elias, in his bright yellow scarf, haggled over a bag of oranges with a vendor, his laugh cutting through the noise. I watched him, my chest tight. How had I never noticed how his eyes crinkled when he smiled? "Julian, you're spacing out," he teased, tossing me an orange. "Catch." I fumbled it, the fruit rolling across the pavement. He laughed again, chasing it down, and for a moment, it felt like old times. But when he handed it back, his fingers brushed mine, and the air shifted. His smile faltered, and I saw it again, that raw, unguarded look from the bathroom. "Eli," I started, my voice low, "are we okay?" He studied me, his expression softening. "We're always okay, Jules. Are you okay?" I wanted to say yes, to brush it off like I always did, but the truth clawed at me. "I don't know," I admitted. "I'm scared. Of messing this up. Of losing you." He stepped closer, his voice steady. "You won't lose me. No matter what." The words should have comforted me, but they only deepened the ache. I wasn't just scared of losing him as a friend. I was scared of what it meant to want more. I'd spent years building walls around my heart, convincing myself I didn't need anyone. But Elias had always been there, slipping through the cracks. That night, we went to a bar in the Castro, a place with neon lights and a jukebox blaring old pop hits. Our friend Maya, a photographer with a knack for dragging us out, insisted we needed a break from all the brooding. She didn't know about Elias's confession, but her sharp eyes caught the tension between us. "You two are weird tonight," she said, sipping her beer. "What's up?" "Nothing," I lied too quickly. Elias raised an eyebrow, but said nothing, his knee brushing mine under the table. Maya rolled her eyes. "Sure, you're both acting like you're hiding a body." The night wore on, and after Maya left, Elias and I stayed, the bar's noise fading into the background. He leaned closer, his voice soft. "Jules, you don't have to figure it all out tonight. But can I ask you something?" My heart thudded. "Yeah. Have you ever thought about us? Like us?" The question hit like a punch. Had I? There were moments, his hand on my shoulder after a bad day, the way he'd hum while cooking, the nights we'd fallen asleep watching movies, our heads inches apart. I'd always told myself it was just friendship. But now, with his eyes searching mine, I wasn't so sure. "I don't know," I said, my voice barely audible. "Maybe." He nodded, like he'd expected that. "Okay, that's something." We walked home in silence, the city's lights blurring around us. At our door, he paused, his hand on the knob. "Jules," he said, turning to me, "whatever happens, I'm not going anywhere." I wanted to say something, anything, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I nodded, and we stepped into the apartment, the weight of his promise settling over me like the fog outside. The next week was a blur of work and avoidance. I took on extra projects, staying late at the studio, but Elias was relentless in his quiet way. He'd leave coffee on my desk, text me dumb memes, act like nothing had changed. But everything had. Every touch, every glance felt charged, like a storm brewing just out of sight. One evening, I came home to find him painting on the fire escape, his hands smudged with color. The canvas was a riot of blues and golds, a cityscape that felt alive. "It's for you," he said, not looking up. "Thought it might help you think." I stared at the painting, my throat tight. It was us, our city, our life, captured in bold, fearless strokes. "Eli," I said, my voice breaking, "why is this so hard?" He set his brush down, his eyes meeting mine. "Because it matters." For the first time, I let myself imagine it. Kissing him, holding him, building something more than friendship. The thought was terrifying, exhilarating, like stepping off a cliff. But as I stood there, watching him in the fading light, I knew one thing. I wasn't ready to let him go. The painting Elias made sat on my desk, its colors taunting me every time I tried to work. San Francisco's skyline, bold and vibrant, stared back, a reminder of his confession and my indecision. I was stuck, caught between fear of change and the pull of something I couldn't yet name. Life kept moving, though. Elias went back to his shifts at the cafe, and I buried myself in client revisions. But the apartment felt smaller, the air thick with unspoken words. Every time our eyes met, I saw the question he wasn't asking. "What do you want, Julian?" One rainy afternoon, I found myself at the cafe where Elias worked, needing a break from my laptop. The place was packed, the hum of conversation mixing with the hiss of the espresso machine. Elias was behind the counter, his scarf swapped for an apron, his smile bright as he handed a customer their latte. I watched him, my chest aching with a mix of pride and confusion. He was so him, effortlessly charming, always in motion. How had I not seen how much he meant to me? "Hey, stranger," he called, spotting me. "Your usual?" I nodded, sliding onto a stool at the counter. "You're busy today." "Always," he said, but his eyes lingered on me, soft and searching. He slid my coffee across the counter, his fingers grazing mine. "You okay, Jules?" I wanted to say no, to spill everything. The fear, the longing, the way his confession had rewritten every memory I had of us. But the words wouldn't come. "Just tired," I lied. He didn't push, but as he turned to help another customer, I caught the flicker of hurt in his eyes. I hated myself for it. That night, a storm rolled in, rain lashing the windows as thunder rumbled in the distance. Elias was in the living room, sketching, when I finally worked up the nerve to talk. "Eli," I said, sitting across from him, "can we figure this out?" He set his sketchbook down, his expression cautious. "Figure what out?" "Us," I said, my voice shaking. "What you said, what it means." He leaned forward, his hands clasped. "I meant every word, Jules. But I don't want to push you into something you're not ready for." The honesty in his voice broke something in me. "I'm scared," I admitted. I've never thought about guys like that. Not really. But with you," I trailed off, my face burning. His eyes softened, but he didn't move closer. "You don't have to label it. Not yet. Just tell me what you feel." I took a deep breath, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "I feel like you're home. Like no matter what happens, you're the one I want to come back to. And that scares the hell out of me, because what if I mess it up?" He reached out, his hand resting on mine, warm and steady. You won't mess it up. Not if we're honest. The thunder rolled again, and I felt it in my chest, a storm of my own. I didn't pull my hand away. For the first time, I let myself feel the weight of his touch, the possibility it held. The next day, I went to therapy, something I'd started after a rough breakup years ago. My therapist, Dr. Chun, listened as I poured out the story, her calm presence grounding me. "It sounds like Elias is important to you," she said. "But what do you want, Julian?" "I don't know," I said, frustrated. "I keep thinking about him, about what it would be like to be with him. But what if it ruins everything?" She nodded, her voice gentle. "Love always carries risk, but so does staying still." Her words stuck with me as I walked home through the rain, the city's lights reflecting off wet pavement. When I got to the apartment, Elias was cooking, the smell of garlic and basil filling the air. He looked up, his smile tentative. "Hungry?" I nodded, but food was the last thing on my mind. As we ate, I watched him, the way he talked with his hands, the way his laugh filled the room. And for the first time, I let myself imagine it. Not just friendship, but something more. His hand in mine, his lips on mine, a life built together. "Eli," I said, setting my fork down, "I'm still figuring this out, but I want to try. With you." His eyes lit up, a mix of hope and disbelief. "You mean that?" "Yeah," I said, my voice steady despite the fear. "I do." He reached across the table, his hand finding mine, and in that moment, the storm outside felt far away. We weren't fixed. Not yet, but we were starting. Saying I wanted to try was like stepping into a new city without a map. Elias and I were navigating uncharted territory, and every moment felt fragile, like a sketch that could smudge if you pressed too hard. But there was something exhilarating about it, too, like the first time I picked up a pencil and realized I could create something real. We didn't jump into anything. Instead, we let the days unfold slowly, testing the waters. Elias would brush my hand when we passed in the kitchen, and I'd catch myself smiling at the warmth of it. We'd sit closer on the couch, our knees touching as we watched old sci-fi movies, the silence between us filled with possibility. But we didn't kiss, didn't cross that line. Not yet. One evening, we went to a gallery opening in Soma, one of my designs featured in a local artist showcase. The room buzzed with chatter, wine glasses clinking, and I felt Elias's presence beside me like a tether. He wore a navy blazer over his usual colorful scarf, and I couldn't stop stealing glances at him. "You clean up nice," I teased, my voice lighter than I felt. He grinned, nudging my shoulder. "You're not so bad yourself, Carter." As we wandered through the gallery, I noticed people watching us, not with judgment but with curiosity, like they could sense the shift between us. San Francisco was a city that wore its heart on its sleeve, rainbow flags, and open affection everywhere, but I still felt exposed. Was I ready for this? For us? Later, we ended up on the gallery's rooftop, the city sprawling below us, lights twinkling against the night sky. Elias leaned against the railing, his expression soft. "This feels good," he said. "Being here with you. Like this." I nodded, my throat tight. "It does. But it's a lot." He turned to me, his eyes searching. "Too much." "No," I said quickly. "Just new." He smiled, and for a moment I thought he might kiss me. Instead, he took my hand, his fingers lacing through mine. "We'll go slow," he said. "As slow as you need." But slow wasn't always possible. A week later, we hit a snag. I'd been invited to a client dinner, a big opportunity to pitch a campaign, and I asked Elias to come along as my plus one. I told myself it was just practical. He was good with people, and I needed the support. But deep down, I wanted him there, wanted to see how it felt to have him by my side in a new way. The dinner was at a fancy restaurant in Nob Hill, all polished wood and candlelight. Elias charmed everyone, his laugh drawing smiles from the clients. But when one of them, a slick ad exec named Greg, asked if we were just friends, I froze. Elias's hand was on my knee under the table, and I felt the weight of the question like a spotlight. "Yeah," I said, my voice tight. "Best friends." Elias's hand stilled, and I saw the flicker of hurt in his eyes before he masked it with a smile. The rest of the night was a blur, his usual warmth dimmed. When we got home, he didn't say anything, just headed to his room, the door closing softly behind him. I stood in the living room, guilt gnawing at me. Why had I said that? Was I ashamed? Scared? Or just too damn stubborn to admit what I felt? I knocked on his door, my heart pounding. "Eli, can we talk?" He opened the door, his expression guarded. "What's up?" "I'm sorry," I said, the words spilling out. I panicked. I didn't mean to diminish us. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Jules, I get it. This is new for you. But it hurt, hearing you say that. Like I'm still just your buddy." "You're not," I said, stepping closer. "You're everything." His eyes widened, and before I could overthink it, I closed the distance, my hand cupping his face. Our lips met, tentative at first, then deeper, a rush of heat and certainty I hadn't expected. When we pulled back, his smile was brighter than the city lights outside. "Okay," he whispered. "That's a start." Kissing Elias was like discovering a color I'd never seen before. Vivid, overwhelming, and impossible to ignore. We didn't talk about it much after that night, but we didn't need to. The way he'd catch my eye across the room, the way his hand lingered on my back when we passed in the hallway. It was a language we were both learning, wordless and full of promise. But life doesn't let you stay in that glow forever. Work was relentless, my deadlines piling up, and Elias was pulling extra shifts at the cafe to cover coworkers' leave. We stole moments where we could. A quick kiss before I left for the studio, a late-night walk through the mission's mural-covered alleys. But the world kept spinning, and with it came complications. One evening, I got a call from my sister, Lila, who lived back in our hometown of Fresno. Her voice was tight, urgent. "Julian, Mom's not doing great. She's been hiding it, but her heart's acting up again. Can you come home?" My stomach dropped. Mom had always been the strong one, the one who'd raised Lila and me alone after Dad left. The thought of her struggling, alone in that small house with its faded wallpaper, hit me hard. "I'll be there," I said. "This weekend." When I told Elias, his face fell. "I'll come with you," he offered, but I shook my head. "No, stay. You've got work, and I need to do this alone." The truth was, I wasn't sure how to bring him into that part of my life yet. Fresno wasn't San Francisco. Our hometown was small, conservative, the kind of place where rainbow flags were rare and whispers were sharp. I wasn't ready to face that with Elias by my side, not when I was still figuring out what we were. He nodded, but I saw the hurt in his eyes. "Just call me, okay?" he said. "If you need me." Fresno felt like stepping into a memory I tried to outrun. The house smelled of Mom's lavender candles, but she looked smaller, frilier, her smile strained as she hugged me. "You didn't have to come," she said, but her grip told me otherwise. Lila filled me in. Mom's heart condition was worsening, and the doctors were talking about surgery. I spent the weekend helping around the house, fixing leaky faucets, and trying to ignore the knot in my chest. But at night, alone in my old bedroom, I'd text Elias, his replies a lifeline. "Miss you," he'd write, and I'd stare at the words, my heart aching. On Sunday, Lila cornered me in the kitchen. "What's going on with you?" she asked, her eyes narrowing. "You're different." Distracted. I hesitated, then told her about Elias. Everything. The confession, the kiss, the way I was falling for him. Her face softened, but there was worry there too. "Julian, that's huge. But you know how Mom is. In this town." "I know," I said, my voice low. "That's why I didn't bring him." She hugged me, fierce and protective. "You don't have to hide who you are. Not with me." Back in San Francisco, Elias was waiting at the apartment, a pizza box on the counter and a nervous smile on his face. "How's your mom?" he asked, pulling me into a hug. I told him everything, the doctors, the surgery, Lila's support. But I didn't tell him about my fear, the way Fresno had reminded me of all the reasons I'd kept my heart locked away. Instead, I kissed him, letting the warmth of him push the doubts aside. But the doubts didn't stay gone. A week later, I got an email from Greg, the ad exec from the dinner. He was offering me a freelance gig in New York, a 6-month contract, the kind of opportunity that could change my career. The catch? I'd have to leave soon, and it meant leaving Elias. I showed him the email that night, my hands shaking. "This could be big," I said, "but I don't know if I can go." His face was unreadable for a moment. Then he smiled, soft and sad. "Jules, you have to take it. It's your dream. But what about us?" I asked, my voice breaking. He took my hand, his grip firm. "We'll figure it out. I'm not letting you go that easily." As we sat there, the city's lights flickering outside, I realized that loving Elias wasn't just about the thrill of his touch or the comfort of his presence. It was about facing the hard choices together, about building something stronger than fear. The New York offer hung over us like a storm cloud, beautiful and threatening. Elias and I tried to keep things light, cooking dinner together, joking about bad reality TV, but the weight of the decision pressed against every moment. I wanted the job, the chance to prove myself on a bigger stage, but the thought of leaving Elias, of putting 3,000 miles between us, felt like betraying something sacred. One night, we went to Ocean Beach, the Pacific stretching out dark and endless under a starless sky. The wind was sharp, tugging at Elias's scarf as we walked along the shore. "You're going to take it, right?" he asked, his voice almost lost in the waves. "I don't know," I said, kicking at the sand. "It's a lot to leave behind." He stopped, turning to face me. "Jules, you've always wanted this. Don't let me hold you back." "You're not," I said, frustrated. "It's not about you holding me back. It's about us, what we're building." He looked at me, his eyes catching the faint glow of the city behind us. "We can build it anywhere. I can visit. We can call, text, whatever. I'm not going anywhere." But I heard the strain in his voice, the fear he was trying to hide. I reached for his hand, the cold sand crunching under our feet. "Eli, I don't want to lose this. Not when we're just starting." He squeezed my hand, his smile bittersweet. "Then don't. Take the job. We'll make it work." The next week was a whirlwind. I accepted the offer, and suddenly I was packing, booking flights, saying goodbye to the city that had shaped me. Elias helped, folding my clothes with care, but I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his smiles didn't quite reach his eyes. The night before I left, we stayed up late, sprawled on the living room floor with a bottle of wine. "Remember when we snuck into that concert in high school?" he said, laughing. "You were so scared we'd get caught. You were the one who climbed the fence first." I shot back, grinning. "I just followed your dumbass." He laughed, then grew quiet, his fingers tracing the rim of his glass. "I'm proud of you, Jules. You're going to kill it in New York." I looked at him, my chest tight. "Come with me," I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. His eyes widened, and for a moment, I thought he might say yes. But then he shook his head. "I can't. Not yet. My life's here, the cafe, my art. But I'll visit. Soon." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. We fell asleep on the floor, his head on my chest, the city's hum a quiet lullaby. New York was a shock to the system, bright, loud, relentless. My days were filled with meetings, sketches, and the grind of proving myself. But at night, in my tiny Brooklyn apartment, I'd call Elias, his voice grounding me across the miles. We'd talk about everything, his latest mural, my latest client drama, the way we missed each other. One night, he FaceTimed me, his face lit by the glow of his phone. "I started a new painting," he said, holding up a canvas. It was us on the fire escape, the city sparkling behind us. "So you don't forget where you came from." I laughed, but my eyes stung. "I could never forget you." But distance is a thief. As weeks turned into months, our calls grew shorter, our schedules clashing. I'd see his posts on social media, him at the cafe, laughing with friends, and feel a pang of jealousy, of fear that he was moving on without me. Then came the call that changed everything. It was late, the New York skyline glittering outside my window, when Elias's name lit up my phone. His voice was shaky. "Jules, I need to tell you something." My heart stopped, just like it had that day in the bathroom. What's wrong? I got an offer, he said. An art residency. In London. It's for a year. The world tilted again. London. Another continent, another life. That's amazing, I said, forcing the words out. You have to go. I know, he said, his voice breaking. But I don't want to lose you. I closed my eyes, the distance between us feeling like a chasm. You won't, I said, echoing his word from months ago. We'll figure it out. But as we hung up, I wasn't sure I believed it. Love was a risk, Dr. Chun had said. And now, it felt like we were both leaping off separate cliffs, hoping we'd land together. Distance tested us, stretched us thin like a canvas pulled too tight. Elias left for London, his art residency a dream he couldn't turn down, and I stayed in New York, chasing my own. We promised to make it work, daily texts, weekly calls, visits when we could afford them. But time zones and ambition are cruel, and slowly, the cracks began to show. Our calls grew sporadic, the silences longer. I'd wake up to missed messages from Elias, his words full of excitement about London's art scene, but I could feel the distance in them, the way we were both holding on to something slipping away. I threw myself into work, my designs winning praise, but every victory felt hollow without him to share it with. One night, I found myself a rooftop bar in Manhattan, the city skyline a glittering reminder of how far I'd come, and how far Elias was. My phone buzzed, a photo from him, a mural he'd painted on a London wall, vibrant and bold, with two figures that looked suspiciously like us. Miss you, the caption read. I stared at it, my heart aching. I typed a reply, then deleted it. What could I say? That I was proud of him? That I was scared we were fading? That I loved him, and it wasn't enough? Months later, my contract in New York ended, and I had a choice. Stay and chase more opportunities, or go home. San Francisco called to me, its fog and familiarity a pull I couldn't ignore. I booked a flight, my heart pounding with the hope of seeing Elias again. He was back in San Francisco too, his residency over. When I landed, he was waiting at the airport, his scarf bright against the gray terminal. We didn't speak at first, just hugged, the kind of hug that says everything words can't. I missed you, he whispered, his voice thick. Me too, I said, my eyes stinging. We went back to our old apartment, which Elias had kept. It felt like stepping into a memory, the same creaky floors, the same paint-splattered table. But we were different, marked by time and distance. Over coffee, we really talked for the first time in months. I was scared, he admitted, his hands wrapped around his mug. That we'd lose this. That I'd lose you. I was too, I said, but I don't want to keep running from it. He looked at me, his eyes searching. What do you want, Jules? I took a deep breath, the words steady this time. I want you. I want us. Not just as friends, but as everything. His smile was like the sun breaking through fog. Yeah, I said, reaching for his hand. I love you, Eli. I think I always have. He leaned across the table, kissing me, and it was like coming home. Not to a place, but to him, to us. We rebuilt slowly, carefully. Elias got a job teaching art at a community center, and I started freelancing again, our lives intertwining in new ways. There were challenges, my mom's surgery, the whispers from old friends who didn't understand, the fear of messing up something so precious. But we faced them together, our hands clasped, our hearts open. One evening, we stood on the fire escape, the city alive below us. Elias's painting, the one he'd made before I left, hung on our wall now, a reminder of where we'd started. We made it, he said, his voice soft. We did, I said, leaning into him. And we're not done. The city stretched out before us, a canvas of light and color, and I knew, no matter what came next, we'd paint it together. Love wasn't just the spark of a confession or the thrill of a kiss. It was the choice to stay, to fight, to build something that could weather any storm.